Hello everyone and welcome to Le Ricette di Giovanni. My name is Stefanos Koroneos and I'm the artistic director of Teatro Grattacielo and Camerata Bardi Vocal Academy, which is Teatro Grattaciello's young and resident artist program. I want to welcome you all to this first video blog dedicated to opera, pasta, and tenor Giovanni Consiglio. This year, Teatro Grattacielo has launched, together with Camerata Bardi Vocal Academy, an international voice competition named exactly after Giovanni Consiglio. And while I was doing a little bit of research and learning a little bit about the man, about the singer, I came across some fun facts about him. And one of these facts was that Giovanni, who had a lot of students, had a lot of friends, and who lived on 69th Street in Manhattan, loved to cook. Occasionally, he would share some of his favorite recipes, but he would always leave out one ingredient. That kind of prompted me to start this video series where I explain a little bit the man, and I invite friends to cook together, to talk a little bit about their opera path, their dedication to this beautiful craft, to cook and to share some beautiful moments, especially during this difficult period of lockdown where everybody is doing its best to survive and to make the best of their time at home. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you my very good friend, bass baritone extraordinaire, Stefano de Peppo, that I know for many, many, many years. Welcome, Stefano. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Hello, Stefanos. Hello, everybody.
How are you?
I'm okay. Doing well in this difficult period. How are you?
I'm doing great too. And I know you are in Brooklyn right now. And like everybody else, you are at home. Hopefully, this video series will be one of these events that we will be talking about it in person in maybe a few years or a few months when we all get together and we can celebrate. Or it's very peculiar in a certain way, because I know that most of us singers who travel all over the world and who always are homesick, we always talk about our homes. We always talk about when we're going to go back home, what we're going to do. We're going to sit on the couch and we are going to cook and eat and do nothing. All of a sudden, we found ourselves exactly forced to be doing this. And I think that it's great to have the technology to get together and cook something and talk a little bit about what we love. So what are you going to cook for us today?
Well, I think that I thought about what to cook, and Giovanni Consiglio was very known, as you well know, for his pastas. You just talked about that. And one of his favorite pastas I know was the famous spaghetti aglio e olio, spaghetti with olive oil and garlic. Right. Which is one of the very common, easy pastas that we make in Italy, and already not only in Italy. So I thought about choosing a similar ingredient to garlic, which is onions. And, you know, in the south of Italy, where Giovanni Consiglio came from, he was born there. And I also was born in the south, even if I grew up in Milan. But pastas are definitely, there is a lot of variety of pastas because it's a very cheap, easy way of filling up bellies. And the south of Italy historically has always been definitely poorer than the north. So they had to find a way of feeding the families. And so there are many dishes of pasta which are called piatti poveri, poor dishes. because the ingredients are quite cheap and but very tasty. So Giovanni Consiglio's favorite was spaghetti aglio olio, and one of my favorites is a similar pasta, as I mentioned before, which is pasta croccante con cipolle, which is pasta with onions and crunchy breadcrumbs. It sounds like a bizarre combination, but it's actually very tasty. And I just wanted to show you the ingredients, which are, of course, our pasta. And I chose penne lisce, which is a very common format of pasta. I will prepare the dish for about 2 people. So it's about 6-7 ounces of pasta, according to how hungry we are. Then onions, which I already sliced. As you can see, I've put 2 onions sliced, chopped quite not very thin pieces. Then, of course, pan grattato, breadcrumb that we are not now making crunchy, Romano cheese, some olive oil, black olives and capers, and anchovies. And of course, the main ingredients, olive oil, salt and pepper, and just a little bit of tomato paste, which we call concentrato di pomodoro. Great. So these are the ingredients, and of course, cooking without a little glass of wine is something that we Italians don't do. So,
of course, you got me there. You got me there. And while you're drinking, I would like to ask you, and this is something that always fascinated me, and I always want to know from people that I work with, from friends, how did you decide to become an opera singer? What prompted you to say, one day I will be on this stage, or will be on that stage singing specifically opera?
I think it was a decision made when I was a kid, because when I was at school, elementary school in Milan, I actually had the chance to be chosen by the chorus master of La Scala, who came to my elementary school to audition kids in order to become members of the children chorus of La Scala. They told me in my family that I always liked singing since I was like 4 or 5 years old. And at the time when I was chosen to be part of the children chorus of La Scala, I was 8, and I didn't know anything about opera, honestly. But being part of productions of operas when I was a kid, I immediately I fell in love with this form of art. And I was in the children chorus for about 7-8 years until nature made it impossible, of course. And I had the fantastic opportunity to share, let's say, the stage with huge, big names of the time. We're talking about the 70s. So big names of that used to be singing at La Scala in that period. And I remember that I thought, when I grow up, I want to be one of them. Perhaps I didn't become one of them, but at least I'm doing what I really like, being an opera singer. So this is summarized my story of how I became an opera singer.
Yeah, it practically fell into you in a very young age, which is, pretty much very interesting to me, because you have such a long history exactly with this art form. Some of us, we haven't approached opera until we were in college or right after college. So it's good to know that you have such a rich background and you started so early. Why don't we start?
Basically, you just told me that I'm old. This is what you just said.
No, I would never say that. I would never.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I feel even, of course, I'm getting old, but I feel privileged for the occasions, for the opportunity that I had, and to be part of this beautiful form of art, which is opera.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, what stories, what a life to to tell to younger generations or to friends about you being on the stage as a kid with all these great singers that now we hear in recordings, and we follow their fan clubs, and we talk about them, or we, in some cases, also we try to imitate them. And you were right there, close to them. That's
I was right there, and I mean, I'm that old because I took part to, I remember, to a Carmen and a Bohème with Giuseppe Di Stefano in his last appearances to La Scala in the early 70s, and Mirella Freni, Placido Domingo, Pavarotti, wow. Birgit Nilsson in Turandot, I remember her, Montserrat Caballé, all those singers of that period. So
wow. I mean, I have, you know, met some of these singers too, not on the stage, because they were all kind of retired when I started, but wow, that's amazing. Let's get to cooking.
Yes, I think that opera, music, and food go very well together. So
absolutely,
Minchin, and let's work. So
yes,
first of all, I already put here a pot of boiling water, as you can see,
okay.
And I have two pans, a big one and a small one.
Okay.
Let's put some olive oil here in this small pan, and also in the big one. I explain you why. This is the pan that we will use for making the breadcrumb crunchy. So here it is. Let's put it here. And while we mix it a little bit, we can also, as the pasta cooks around for about 10-11 minutes to make it al dente, we can actually already put the pasta in the boiling water. I already put some salt, which is very important to put salt in the boiling water. And I put here my penne and a little stirring of the pasta. Let's put the lid on top of it so it starts again to boil, and then of course we have to remember to take it off, if not all the water will come out of it. And in the meantime, I keep stirring the breadcrumb, which has to become crunchy, because this is going to be basically, because this pasta doesn't really count on Parmesan cheese, even if I'll surprise you later with a little bit of Romano cheese. But this is going to be basically what the Parmesan cheese does. So in the meantime, we have here this other pot, and we can actually make the actual sauce. Let's call it sauce, which is the onions, the base. So let's put onions here to cook. They have to cook about 8 minutes, more or less, while the pasta is there cooking. And also, I can actually put some of the anchovies. I love anchovies. I don't know if you do. I love anchovies. So I will put all of them. It depends on your taste.
Yes.
You can put not as many. I love anchovies. And the anchovies actually become basically, they melt somehow pretty soon. And they give this beautiful flavor and color to the onions. So we keep stirring, which is very important, and they have to cook.
Really?
So at the beginning, it sounds a little bit bizarre to say that we eat pasta with onions, but believe me, it's going to be good.
No, it sounds amazing. And while you're doing all of this, another thing that I wanted to ask you is, you know, we all right now are experiencing some kind of loss of income, loss of seeing our friends, loss of doing what we love, being on the stage. How do you live this part of your life, this loss?
As you can see, cooking and eating is all I do. No, of course, you know, we are all in this a little bit of a difficult situation right now, where we have to, you know, the world of arts has been hit very hard. I mean, as everybody else, but we depend on performances in order to live. We have to perform live in theaters, in venues, and as you know, this doesn't happen right now. So, of course, trying to, as everybody's doing some classes online, and taking advantage for studying some new role. As you know, I've been posting some areas of some roles that I would love to sing, but you know, it's something that you never know in the future. You know, in the meantime, let me just tell you here, the pangrattato, the breadcrumb, is actually almost ready. It's getting quite crunchy. When it becomes like a little bit brownish is when we can say it's ready. And this is something that we can put aside. Just a few more minutes.
Wonderful.
So this is, of course, it's a period of trying to figure out lives. All the gigs that we singers have been, all our contracts have been suspended or cancelled or postponed. So we have to try not to become too depressed and go on with lives as much as we can, which is very important.
I want to add to that you are also a pretty well-known Italian diction course for singers, and probably this period is a period there where you have been able to dedicate a little bit more time into also that craft. That is an important craft for especially for young singers, that they are hoping to go from students into professionals. And you know, I find your story very interesting and very compelling, very close to the story of Giovanni Consiglio, because Giovanni also comes from the south of Italy, from Foggia, and he was in young age. He was discovered from a manager who brought him to South America. He had a pretty good career, especially in Argentina and in Venezuela. And in Mexico. I know that you spent quite some time, quite a few years in Mexico. And I found this parallel a little bit to mention.
Yeah, actually, you know, when I started after the experience of the children in the children chorus of La Scala, when I was like 17, 18, it's when I really started the beginning of the training, which you cannot do before, especially for a man. So I studied, and destiny took me to Mexico City when I was like 29 years old. I was after an audition, I was chosen to be part of the you know, of the Palacio de Bellas Artes Opera House in Mexico City. I was part of the fest contract, and I lived 10 years in Mexico City. So it was a very beautiful experience. I sang a lot there, and from there I started to sing outside Mexico, and that's where I started. And then eventually, 20 years ago, I decided to move to New York City, and that's where my home is, here in Brooklyn. In the meantime, these beautiful onions are, they don't have to caramelize, but they have actually to, you know, to become softer and softer. And it's actually the time when we can add a little bit of the water of the pasta, which has some starch. So we add it, and it makes the onions even softer. And it's also the time to add a little bit of black olives, which I love, the Kalamata olives that I'm sure that you have heard of before. And some peppers.
Yes, of course. My family comes from close to there, a little bit more in the south.
Oh, you see?
Yes.
That's fantastic. So this is cooking.
Okay.
The pasta is actually something that we in Italy we do is very Italian. You know, to try the pasta and to see if it's actually al dente. This is still too much al dente,
Right.
so it has to cook a little bit more. But it's actually we tried. We took it out. We take it out from the pot, and we taste it. And when we feel that the texture of the pasta is the right one, is the right al dente, is when we can take it out from the boiling water and add to the sauce. In this case, actually, the pasta has, like in many sauces, I like this idea. It's a little bit of a fashion now to finish cooking the pasta in the sauce in this way called risottare la pasta, which means basically making the pasta like it was a risotto, which actually the risotto, the rice cooks slowly in the broth by itself. So in risottare la pasta means at the very last, in the last couple of minutes of the cooking of the pasta, you put it directly in the pan where the sauce is with a little bit of the water, and you finish the cooking in the pan. Isn't it interesting?
What does the water of the pasta do? What is the difference between a regular water and water that comes from the pasta pot?
Well, the pasta itself has some starch. So the water of the pasta, that's why it becomes, it's quite clear. But as you can see now with the pasta inside, which is finishing cooking, it becomes not so clear. So actually the starch, the pasta releases its starch. And that's why the water, it has, actually, let me add it a little bit more here. The starch make the pasta basically binding the sauce, and the flavor comes all together, and at the end the pasta makes the final dive in the sauce, where there is a little bit of and which is actually what we're doing to do now. Right. I don't even use a drainer. I use this, and I put it directly here. Mm-hmm. So it basically finished cooking in the sauce in this process that we said. It's called risottare la pasta.
That's
Do you make risotto, Stefanos?
I love risotto, and I grew up. I lived between Milan and Modena, and
of course you did. So, how was your experience there? How did we treat you in Italy?
It was beautiful. I lived in Italy for almost 14 years. I started my career as a singer there. My first steps as a musician, and yes, I have very fond memories of risotto.
It's funny because we were in Milan basically at this more or less at the same time, and we never met there. And I'm sure that we must have been in the same places a few times. No, actually, no. You arrived there a little bit later, correct? You were there in the. I think so. I think that you were there a little bit later.
Probably.
Let me put a little bit of.
So you are adding more water, right?
Come again?
You are adding more water to the pasta.
Yes, I am. A little bit of water to the pasta. So as you can see, the water is with the starch, the water of the pasta is binding all the flavors together.
Okay.
And the dish in the piatto, in the plate. So, the smell, believe me, is very, very nice.
I can tell. I can tell. I wish I was there. I'm dying.
So you can see, basically, I with 7 ounces, I think, of pasta.
Okay.
I think you can also feed like 3 people. It depends on how hungry you are. I'm quite hungry, so I will use 1 dish just for myself, 1 plate just for myself. So I put a little bit more of this crunchy breadcrumb on my plate. Then a little bit of this Romano cheese with your hands, of course, clean hands. This is how you do it, with your hands. Hands are very important in cooking. And I think that I'm ready to try.
I wish I was there.
It looks actually very nice. So let me try it. I'm very critical about what I do, so I will not tell you that it's good if it's not. It smells good. Smell is the first thing that you have to sniff. Your pasta, your dish, what you are putting in your mouth is very important, because when you smell the flavors, your palate opens, your brain tells you, yes, open your mouth.
So what's the verdict?
It is actually very good.
What
I have to say.
So
sorry if I sound presumptuous, but it's very good.
No. Don't be presumptuous. Also because you know that I'm coming to Brooklyn when this is over and you're going to be cooking for me this pasta.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
It has been really a pleasure.
Absolutely. For me too.
Buon appetito.
Grazie. I want to leave you with a question. What do you want the people to know about you? Surprise final question about you, yes. What is that the people should know about you?
Oh, well, it's a little bit of a difficult question to answer, but I think I'm a person who loves enjoying the little things of life. I think that, especially in these critical times, if you do not try to make the best of every little thing, good things that can happen. There are, of course, good things and bad things, but trying to underline and to give the right importance to the good things that happen in life, it's a very good formula. And I try to do this. So this is perhaps one of my main features.
Wonderful. And knowing you for so many years, I can attest that, yes, you are one of those people who love and who enjoys every little moment.
Yes.
So, Stefanino, thank you so much. Good to see you virtually through our applications. Buon appetit, and I will talk to you soon. Ciao.
Buon appetito. It has been a pleasure.